But they're children. They act like children the whole time.
Okay, but
and
it's a
Papa
sitcom,
Holt
Larissa.
is like their dad. No, that's like fine, but
what sitcom
but
characters
it's not
don't
character
ask,
growth. If it's not character growth, like it's not character growth. If it's not character growth, if they're not growing and not changing, then they're not growing and they're not changing, and they're the same person, and it gets annoying after 8 seasons.
Okay, whatever. Agree to disagree.
Hello.
Beautiful. Okay. Hello and welcome to another episode of Don't Read Into It. I'm Becca and this is Larissa, and this week we're getting back to our sitcom roots and talking about a show that covers not one but two of my favorite genres. Sitcoms, obviously, and procedural cop shows. That's right, we're going to not read into Brooklyn Nine-Nine, baby. This show was on the air from 2013 to 2021, having 7 great seasons and one pretty mediocre one. Still pretty impressive for a sitcom, I think. It follows Jake Peralta, who is a talented but very irresponsible police detective who has never had to follow the rules or face the consequences of his actions, until Captain Holt takes over the 99th Precinct and forces Jake to treat the job with a little more respect. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is made up of an amazing ensemble cast that are always keeping things interesting while they solve crimes, so get ready for Larissa and I to not read very much into Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I tried my hand at a Larissa-style intro where I actually sounded, like, professional and, like...
You had, like, some dates in there.
Yeah.
You had, like,
I summarized the show in a way that's, like, almost normal.
It's like, oh, yeah, that's the show we're talking about.
We're talking about a show, and I'm going to tell you what it is before we just dive right in and say our feelings. What
are your feelings? Like, do you like the show?
I really like the show. Like I said, 7 great seasons and one
amazing.
Pretty mediocre.
Okay, but great can mean a lot of things.
Well, I just think, like, overall, I don't ever think the show lost, except for maybe in the 8th season, I don't think it ever lost, like, its like, correct tone. Like, it always, like, kept the right vibes going of, like, silly and goofy. I think the only times I got frustrated with the show was, like, and a lot of, like, I get that shows kind of have to do this, but, like, every time they felt like they had to top, like, last season and, like, their drama aspect of it, when I'm kind of like, I don't know, you're a sitcom, so I really want to see very little of the drama stuff. I don't need to see, like, how, like, when they get arrested or whatever, for example, like, I don't want that to last more than an episode. Like, that's, like, kind of a...
You want to reset every time. Yeah, no, I get that.
I think this is one of the few sitcoms where I think it could have stood to be more like a sitcom and have less overarching plot lines and more sitcom-y one-off episodes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because I think also, like, I don't know, maybe... I know you really like procedural cop shows. And
Boy, do I.
I could be a fan of them, too. And I like when, like... The thing is, I don't think, like, the plots themselves of, like, solving a crime, particularly in those kinds of shows, and I think as well in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, even though I think they do it better, it's like, that's not the interesting part of it. It's usually just the characters anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't really need to see this, like, stretched out over multiple episodes, but when they're doing, like, oh, this is, like, the case of the week, or this is not cases.
Yeah, no, that's why I think, because, well, the thing about Brooklyn Nine-Nine and, like, how it presents as a, like, I think the thing that's nice about procedural cop shows in being, like, a sitcom is that it is very resettable.
Yeah.
It's very formulaic.
It goes well together.
You can solve a case of the week, and you can put whatever 2 characters you want together, or 3 characters, or whatever. Like, it's really easy to do that, and the case can be really nothing. Like, nobody actually cares what case they're solving. Maybe they want it to be a bit kooky, a little fun. Yeah. Like, that doesn't matter as much. So I think it offers a lot of room to play with the characters, which is, I think, in general, what shows are, like, they're built
like
off
shines.
Of, like,
that's just goes.
Like, that's what. Yeah. What gets people invested is, like, they love the characters. They want to keep seeing them. They want to see what happens to them. Like, I enjoyed a lot of the relationship plot lines that, like, go on throughout the show, but I don't care as much about the overarching, like, mysteries.
I don't need Jake Peralta to be, like, saving America.
Yeah, I mean, I never think he is. I think at best he's, like, doing his job considerably better than some people.
Whatever. I'm fine with just, like, an everyday kind of thing. But I think, well, like, that's interesting as well, because I think that this show is similar in makeup in that, like, really fun, like, tangible sitcom way of having that plot built in by virtue of it being like a workplace comedy, which we talked about when we talked about Parks and Rec and The Office, and it's really similar to that in a lot of ways too, but like with that added element it's similar, I guess, to like maybe Psych or like
what a good show.
Like maybe even like House, where like they don't need to be cops really.
Yeah.
Or like do they? I don't know. Like I don't know how integral it is to the show, but
I
like
think
these characters could probably be placed. Do you think like they could be put into like the Parks and Rec?
I think they need to be
and,
like I don't think like they need to be cops, but I think it drastically changes. Like if you want to have the show, like if you want to have Brooklyn Nine-Nine, yes, I think they need to be cops. But I think the show could be successful if they did another career. It's just it wouldn't be the same kind of thing, because I think what drives a lot of them is like they really enjoy their job of being police officers, and like
I suppose you're
Jake
right.
is like obsessed with like being a crime fighter. Like I don't think that it necessarily these specific characters would make sense in another setting. Like maybe you could make it if you took it out of a workplace setting. I think it could maybe continue, but
well, like I think it would definitely be in a workplace setting. But I think like the way the show kind of like evolves, I think like at first it's kind of like generic, and then I guess like it does take like the cop aspect of it to be like one of its greater themes throughout the show, especially when you take into consideration like how it aired during like the George Floyd protests and like
I was gonna say I think that really like it's hard for me to say if I liked what they did post that, because on the one hand I think I understand from an optics perspective why season 8 was the way it was and why they like approached it the way they did, and on the other hand I look to like my TV shows, especially a TV show that was coming out after like COVID, like when everyone like there weren't really that many shows already, like because of COVID and everything, and I was looking for like an escape from everything that's happening, and I'm like, I kind of have to just face the reality of the world in this show also, which was like not fun, but I like kind of understand where they're coming from. So it was a really like I had such mixed feelings about the last season because of like what was going on, because like you know that if they ignored it they would have gotten a lot of backlash also. Like
I feel like it's kind of almost like the show kind of like had to die because that happened almost. It kind of just killed it and it had to become something else, and I think it's like a response to everything that happened. And I think if you look at it that way, like I think it was I think it was generally like well accepted, and it did a lot of good job at like showing like more like intricate details of like the police system and like how like, you know, these things like how easily it's corrupted, and how like even like the lowest level cop can get like wrapped up in just like other people's prejudices and whatnot. But I think like it was more of a response to what the show's legacy was and what they wanted to like leave it as, maybe. Whereas like the show itself was like probably the previous 7 seasons.
Like, I mean, I think
it's a sitcom, and it's like
I almost wish from that perspective though that there hadn't have been that last season, like that the show could have just died as it was, like, because I feel like the 8th season does shift so much from the original show for like good reasons, but like it's kind of like, oh, maybe you should have just ended the show and sort of let it be what it was, and not approach these issues that just don't make sense to approach.
They did a good job though approaching them. Well, I think it does make sense because it is like their livelihoods, and like you said, like they are very passionate about being cops and what it means to be a police officer, and how they view it as like so heroic. So it is very
what I mean is it gets like, I guess it just gets real and it gets dramatic,
it does,
and that
get real.
feels really weird in the context of the show. Not like I think it I guess that's the problem for me, is like it all makes so much sense. Like I understand why they did it. I think they did it pretty well. There's not like a genuine complaint I have, other than I'm like, this just isn't the same show that I fell in love with watching. And I get that they had to adapt, like, you know what I mean? Like I can't really complain that they did. I just almost sometimes I just am like, oh, it would have been nice if this just didn't happen, if the show was just like over and
well, was it like, I don't know if you know if it was like a good season overall. I just watched like a few episodes of it, but like I think for the it was kind of mostly it was very like educational, I think, and I think it did a good job of like kind of Trojan horsing in like these issues from like their audience they had with Brooklyn Nine-Nine previously.
I think it was like a pretty mid-season overall.
Well, because
they did have to address really serious issues, but try to keep it lighthearted and funny, and that was really hard.
But like, I guess but like, were the jokes like still like funny or whatever? Like,
some of them not. I didn't really love. I mean, and we'll talk about this more in the finale stuff, but like, I didn't really love a lot of. I think just like the plot line, like the way they approached a lot of things that were happening in this season, I was kind of like, oh, you're not giving a lot of room for it to be as lighthearted and funny, and like it's kind of, you've put yourself in a position where you've made it more difficult to, I feel like, be as entertaining as you once were. But like, I don't know.
I think though, I think you're right, but I think we probably had it the first. I think it did just like die because that happened. I don't think they could have gone on and done like a ninth season the way that
also
they
like,
did. Just
Brooklyn,
keeping in mind how like glorifying is like children watching this show. It's like, oh, the cops are like so good though. Like, why would I not?
Well, also like Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a sitcom, so I think that also kills it as like a cop show because of what was happening. Whereas like, there are a lot of cop shows that I that I still watch and stuff that are procedural shows that address those issues and everything. Okay. But it's like, oh, it's a drama, so like it makes sense that they would have something a really dramatic plot point, and it's almost comical sometimes because you watch them like address like the issues of like racism and like the police force and stuff, and you're like, it's just really funny because I know that after this plotline wraps up, you're gonna say we solved racism, basically, or like allude to that, and it's like, oh, and then it never happened. It's like, what?
It is very like, it's very surface level, I guess.
It's like in the episode.
It doesn't.
Did you ever see the episode of Degrassi where they just basically allude to having solved racism as a whole? Like,
no, but I think I've seen memes about it.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like, oh yeah, you addressed it because you had to, but you don't want this to be what your show is about, so you're just gonna kind of pretend like the problem is solved.
I think that, like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, what interested me about it, even, like, seasons earlier on, was, like, they are kind of, like, they're definitely satirical, the same way I think, like, Parks and Rec satirizes, like, the government. Yeah. So they are made by the same creators, also.
They're very similar vibes of, like, the shows.
I think, like, Brooklyn Nine has that as well, where it has that, like, satire element that, like, can also, at times, lend itself to being political, which probably helps it, like, with it, I'm going nowhere with my sentence. Sorry, I was gonna say, I think it was one of the first shows, though. Well, like, I feel like it brought in this wave of shows of, like, it had a very diverse cast of, like, ensemble sitcom group that were, like, very quick to address, like, kind of current issues. Like, Rosa came out of bi, like, pretty quick, like, quicker than, like, most other shows, I think, with that, like, kind of notoriety and, like, family friendliness IP would otherwise do. So I think they, like, are brave in a lot of ways. Like, not brave, but, like,
I don't think they shy away from big issues ever.
They kind of tackle them and see them as opportunities.
I do think sometimes when Brooklyn Nine-Nine brought up big issues, though, it always felt really, like, awkwardly done.
Okay.
For me, at least. And this might be just me. But I think, like, a lot of the times when it did it, like, there are some sitcoms where I totally could see them tackling an issue and, like, it probably wouldn't feel as awkward. But for some reason, when they did it in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I always just felt like they were, like, not really sure how to do it, but they wanted to do it. Which, like, I mean, it's good in and of itself that they, like, the creators of the show, the writers of the show, like, want to tackle important issues.
Like, I think they do things like
but sometimes it's just, like, in a way where I'm like, it really feels like you're fumbling around here trying to figure out what to do.
I always thought that they were pretty, like, good representations overall, because I think, like, also, like, a lot of, like, the actors were very involved with their characters. Like, I think Rosa, like, pushed a lot for that plot line, or, like, the actress who plays Rosa, like, pushed a lot for that plot line for her character. And I think what I like about the way Brooklyn Nine-Nine sees those issues is it doesn't do, like, it doesn't do, like, it doesn't look at it as a big scope. It takes it into, like, the personal characters and how Terry, like, has experienced, like, going through this in this specific instance. And I think for, like, a younger audience, which it, like, has, like, it is clearly targeted towards a younger audience, I think it is, like, a very nuanced representation of those issues for, like, you know, the 14-year-olds that are watching it. But I think it is awkward, but I also think the show as a whole is kind of awkward.
Yeah, that's true. I think they do, like, a good job overall. I just find there are, like, moments in it where I'm like, oh, it just really feels like
it's kind of woke. It's like it
kind
is like
of
a woke
grasping
show
at like what you're trying to say here, and like sometimes I would get frustrated because I'd be like, I don't know if I love the way that this is being shown, but I like that you're showing it nonetheless.
Yeah, I think it doesn't help that, like, I think we see a lot of content now. I know, like, the Rachel Zegler stuff is, like, trending now or whatever, which, like, isn't gonna get backlash immediately. Whatever. They're, like, just, like, this, like, wokeness in Hollywood and like, very popular shows like that, and, like, the Netflix shows kind of doing that, like, using it as, like, tokenism and, like, just throwing buzzwords around, like, the Gossip Girl review.
Yeah.
I think, like, that kind of way of, like, show running things stems from, I think, shows like this that I think laid the foundation for that way of taking things, but they didn't understand it the way Brooklyn Nine-Nine did it. Like, when they did it was innovative, and I think, like, it's now snowballed into being kind of a joke.
What? Like, yeah. Yeah, so, you're right. Because I think there are a lot of shows now that don't... It's like sometimes I watch a show and I'm like, it's like you don't understand what about a TV show that people love. Or like when they did the Gossip Girl reboot, for example. Or reboots in general sometimes. I'm just like, I don't understand... Like, I don't understand how you're not grasping, the people who are making the reboots or whatever, what it was about the original show and the original content that people really enjoyed. Because it seems like you're not... Like, it seems sometimes like people are like, I don't... Like, they're trying to do it, and they're trying to, like, make it, like, woke and contemporary. And that's fine. Yeah. Like, you should make it contemporary. But
sometimes it's forced.
But I feel like you're forcing... Yeah, you're forcing it to be a certain way, and you're not, like, taking the time to truly understand what it was about your source material, or what it is about the thing that you're, like, inspired by, that inspired you. And it's like, okay, well, like, why did you like this? What did you like about it? And if you, like, actually, like... take some time to like think about it and look at it, then
the kids love this, let's make a cheap imitation. Yeah
And that's like that is frustrating. That happens a lot now.
But like, I also want to say, because I know I'm kind of like arguing a lot of pros for it, I do like, I know what you mean by saying like, I don't know if they understand like what people want to watch in a show. I don't think this is one of my favorite shows. Like, I don't think it's a great show. I think these are the things it's done well, but I think it's never really captivated me for like longer than throwing on an episode like season 1, season 2.
I think for me, it's almost exactly what I want in a comfort show.
Okay, yeah.
85% of the time, which is a pretty high, like, and I mean, like, I will consume a lot of TV and a lot of not good TV, but I think Brooklyn Nine-Nine does what I need it to do in like a sitcom show that I go to see consistency and like to see like something that's gonna make me laugh and not think too hard.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, sometimes why I get annoyed when they tackle big problems, because I don't really want to think about it. And like, I appreciate the way that they do it, but I'm like, I'm turning this on to turn my brain off. Like, it's very much sitcoms and like TV shows like this are very much escapism for me. Like, I don't want to be in the real world. I just want to like completely get out of it.
I think it's one of the shows, like, I feel like there's, like, this, like, there's the sitcoms that, like, for me at least, they're, like, I think, like, I'll watch, and it's, like, oh, these are, like, long-standing sitcoms for me, so that would be, like, Friends, maybe The Office, Modern Family. I'll throw in an episode if I'm in the mood to watch a sitcom, but then I feel like there's this nether sphere of, like, just like, shows that are, what I, like, quality level to me is, like, a level, or, like, to me, I just think they're second tier to whatever the top, so I never... go back, like Superstore, I watched it all, enjoyed it, never went back and watched another episode. This show, liked it all, enjoyed it. I'm not gonna go back and watch another episode.
Yeah, I've rewatched this show a couple times.
Okay.
I can't say that, but I also love cop shows. So like,
if it's on, it's funny.
So like, that helps me to want to go back and watch it, because sometimes I'm like, I want to watch something funny. I want to watch
structure.
I want to watch a procedural show. I want to watch something that has good. Like, has a good romantic plotline, because I actually think they really do the romantic plotlines pretty well for me. I'll go back to it a lot.
Yeah, we'll go back to it.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. But, like, I'll go back to this show because I enjoy, like, specific aspects of it. I enjoy the way that the show works, where it's, like, Superstore I never went back to either. I watched it all, liked it, kind of got annoyed at a lot of it.
I just feel like it's kind of just like
I'll
redundant to other sitcoms that I don't know.
Yeah, it
doesn't have like an edge that
below.
I'm looking for.
And I mean, I'll watch basically the only way I've ever rewatched it is like I'll watch YouTube clips of like the cold opens or like whatever that are like kind of funny, but that's not really rewatching. But no, with this show, it's like it's very much a type of show that I can go back to all the time. But I like shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Parks and Rec, and New Girl, where like there's a really good like I feel like emotional underlying like tone to it, where like they are less sitcom-y and more like sitcom-y with a smidge of drama.
They kind of just like drag their toes through it, and it's like very bubbly the whole time. And
it's really like it's like almost just watching a bunch of like I don't even know, like it's watching like a really optimistic view of the world almost sometimes when I watch it, and that's what I really like about it.
For sure.
It's like, I don't feel like it's not like, obviously it's not realistic, but I don't feel like I'm completely taken out of I know I say I like to escape to it. I don't feel like I'm completely taken out of the real world. Like, I feel like aspects of it and the characters are, like, real enough for me. But,
it's
like,
a world
also,
that you
like,
kind of want to live in.
Yeah, it's, like, an ideal life. And
it's
I'm like,
nice
that would be so nice.
Yeah.
And, like, they have problems and they address issues, but, like, at the end of the day, like, everyone just, like, loves each other and it's, like...
Well, yeah, there's always going to be a prank at the end of the day.
And so that's what I
see. Okay, I see what you mean.
I like that. Like,
that's
I think it's got a comfort level to it where, like, I'm like, I don't know, this could parts of these characters or this plotline could be real, but then like lots of it is silly and like not.
Yeah. Okay, so that's something I want to talk about too. Is like how I feel like they have this style of comedy that I feel like I've seen. I don't know if Lonely Island.
Lonely Island?
I feel like they also kind of have this, but it's very like Key and Peele is very like I Think You Should Leave, where it's very like it escalates. So like the premise will be introduced and it's like a normal presence. Yeah, it's very like real, and then shit just like stacks on top of each other. Yeah. And it was reminding me of like when we watched like Jury Duty together. How they like maybe this is like getting into my tropes now. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my trope, but it's like when they like feed the reality bank, and it's like, okay, we have to convince them, and I think you see that a lot in like episode 1 and or like season 1 and like season 2. But I think I guess they get away with it because they have like the reputation of doing it now, and people are on board. But they do where it's like it's very the characters surface level look very real, everything going like the procedures are pretty real, and then like when they start getting silly, it's like one silly thing, and then someone responds and like just brings it up a level, and then the world starts kind of like growing into it. Like people start reacting in ways that they wouldn't be if it was real, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean I think that's like that's what makes it kind of fun though. Is like that's how you
it's chaotic.
That's also how you get people invested in it because they're like, oh yeah, this is like a real thing, and then like they're like, wait, that's kind of crazy, and then they just like keep going, but it like stems from something that is real, so then you're like kind of like you become part of the world, and then you're like really like thrown into something that's kind of wild.
Yeah, and like that's what helps, it guides you through it. You can like follow it, and they're like kind of allowed to like do crazy shit like that and still convince you that these are like real people and this is a real world.
Yeah, I mean I like it a lot.
Yeah,
I have no qualms with that.
No, I was just saying, I think it's fun.
Okay.
I've been into it really recently.
You've been into it really recently?
Yeah.
Wait, not Brooklyn Nine-Nine, though.
I think You Should Leave this better. But, no, that's what I appreciated about it. There's a lot of things I appreciate about Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Okay.
It's a little quirky.
You don't like quirky. Boy, oh boy, don't you not like quirky.
I have a meter on quirky that's
you
not
you have a cap on quirky that I usually fill out on a daily basis.
Low tolerance.
So you're like, no more. You can't watch it in your TV shows. You have too much quirk in your real life.
But I think that's where it shines, is like when they do the bits and when they do like the elaborate like things going on, and that's where I love the show. And then when they do the drama stuff,
but
not that interested unless the character's really funny doing it.
But I don't think I don't think a show realistically can, and I know there are shows like it, but
just do bits.
For me, I can't see a show realistically surviving long term only doing bits.
But I wish the plot existed to service the bits. Like, I kind of wish they just did things because it was fun, which I think they do a lot of the time. But I think like I'm never watching the show for the stuff on the side. I'm hoping that the stuff on the side builds towards these funny moments.
I'm usually watching the show for the character development and character
Okay,
relationships.
you just care about people. I'm here for a good laugh.
And then I'm hoping that in those moments, I get a lot of fun bits.
No, that's fair.
So that's why
I just like the plots don't engage, but that's fine. They engage me a little bit. They engage me for a while.
For 1 or 2 seasons.
People grow. People change. People move on.
I
Try
don't.
new things.
I don't.
Some people like stability.
I'm too emotionally fragile to not have the stability of these long-running sitcom-y procedural shows. Should we move more into tropes?
Yeah.
My first trope was, I didn't know what exactly it is, like nerdy girl, type A, teacher's pet character, which is Amy Santiago. No, but like I feel like
no, I have that too.
She's very much like a trope. Like she's the epitome of like the teacher's pet.
Yeah,
kind of
Hermione
character.
Granger.
Yeah.
Wendy Darling, Peter Pan.
Yeah.
That type of. She's like, it's a very like I feel like a mother kind of role.
I kind of like the way they do
a girl
her.
boss kind of way.
Yeah, I kind
of yeah.
I like the way they do her. Where like I think the nerdy girl or the type A character, I think they can be played like one of 2 ways. Either like the way they do it with Amy, where she's like overly competitive and like really like.
Yeah.
I think obsessive about stuff, or they can make them like the shy nerdy girl, which is always kind of annoying and like she's really insecure in like a weird way they don't enjoy. Whereas like the way they portray Amy, I find is really fun. I personally liked her, and I like
like you don't walk on eggshells.
And I like I feel like you really don't.
She's at the bottom of my
I like her like overly competitive energy that's matched with like a deep insecurity that like comes out in a really weird sort of like uncomfortable way, and like watching that journey of like not changing a lot about herself throughout the show, but like growing and being more comfortable in like what and who she is, and like what she is the epitome of a trope.
Yeah, okay. I don't. Here's the thing. I don't hate Amy. I think she's really good for the first bit. I think in the first bit of the show, I think, at least to me, it comes across, the show's very aware that she's annoying. And, like, her and Jake's thing is that they're kind of both really annoying.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be, like, she's the know-it-all. That's what I wrote down, was a know-it-all.
Okay,
that's
yeah.
my trope.
Know-it-all.
But, and she's, like, constantly bringing up her, like, even, like, Captain Holt, like, she's fucking annoying to him. And a very different way from the way, like, Jake's annoying to him.
Yeah.
So that's where I can appreciate it in Amy, whereas I can't. So I like Hermione because she has like a little bit of an edge to her.
Okay.
In Superstore, I feel like is her name also Amy in Superstore, who's basically just also Amy.
Yeah, I mean,
feel like she's also that
in
trope.
Superstore, she's a lot more annoying about it, especially because
I feel like they don't know she's annoying and they treat it like she's a girl boss.
Well, because I was gonna say, Brooklyn Nine-Nine's Amy has, I think, the character depth and like that like the Superstore Amy doesn't. Like Brooklyn, like in this show in Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
they're like the same character.
I feel like the way Amy is portrayed, like she is really annoying to Captain Holt, but she like also very deeply wants a role model and someone she can look up to who she hasn't had throughout her entire career. So it stems from like wanting to be better and wanting to do better, and I think that's really interesting. And like she really cares and is really passionate, whereas like what gets annoying about the know-it-all character in Superstore of like other Amy is she's really like sarcastic and doesn't care, it feels like a lot of the time. And it's like, okay, well, if you don't care about this and like you're apathetic towards this, why do I care about you and your journey? Like, what do you care about? What are you passionate about? And I think that kind of is what makes the version of it in this show more interesting to me, is like she's really passionate about stuff, and that's almost what makes her more
like
annoying.
It's kind of the thing, like I think her like A-typeness is almost the thing that like gets in her way. Like she kind of gets in her own way. Yeah. Like she works very hard, but she gets when it comes to like things outside of her career.
I was thinking this like when I was watching an episode. I was watching an episode the other day, just like I put on a random episode in season 1. And, like, Jake got the opportunity to do this thing, and I was like, oh, Amy would never get this up. Like, I think it was, like, he has to, like, get fired from the 9-9 so that he can go undercover, and Amy's like, your job assignment's super cool. And I was like, that's an opportunity Amy would never really get because of the character that she is. Like, she's so A-type, and she's so, like, cares about the rules and, like, whatever in her job, that like it's not believable that she would like make a huge fuck up like that and like get fired and be able to go undercover with like a gang or something. Like I just like,
well, she just has no life. I think is her biggest issue.
Yeah, no, but I just mean like
she cares too much.
I think Amy doesn't take a lot of risks, and so from that perspective, it's really hard for her to have the same cool opportunities that I think she would enjoy, but like can't really do.
She's like trapped by it almost. Yeah, she's like she is her own worst enemy, I think.
But I think she sort of learns to accept her. Like I think she finds a way to progress in her career that doesn't involve doing things that are just way out of her character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think she's great at her career.
Yeah, she does a great job. Like, I think overall she, like, overcomes these things, but...
I think it makes perfect sense that she's the captain of the precinct, and she should have probably been that a long time ago.
Yeah. But... I think she does... I think if you look deeper into the character, there's just, like... It's really sad to think that, like, there are a lot of things that I'm sure she would love to do, but she'll never get the opportunity to do because, like, of the way that she approaches life. Because she is that character.
Yeah.
But I really like her. I know you have issues with her.
Well, yeah. I don't know if I want to talk about it now. Like, should we just talk about Amy? Because can I talk about her and Jake together?
Well, we can talk about my next trope, which is
Okay, let's just skip it. Yeah, we'll go to that.
Well, I was going to say my next trope is basically Jake's character, which is, like, the man-child, like...
Well, I wrote a trope that's a type B-type pairing.
I also...
So let's do Jake and then we can talk about them together.
So, Jake's, like, the man-child character.
Yeah.
And what I actually really like about his character is he never grows up. He just, like... They force him to grow up in, like, ways where it's like, well, you have to be an adult. Like, you have to have aspects of adulthood, but he doesn't lose I think the charm of a man-child character of being sort of silly and like not really like he seems very irresponsible all the time, but he also like finds a way to but he also is like much more responsible than he was at the beginning. Like he's like grows incrementally in ways where it's necessary, and then can kind of keep the craziness and the sort of childishness of him alive in other ways that I really enjoy. But I also have a soft spot for like man-child type
alive
characters.
In other ways. Is he doing different shit in season like 6 than he is in season like 2? Like,
yeah, well, I just think like in his like, well, I guess like his personal growth comes from like his. Like, I think he's a more responsible person in season 6 than he is in season 2, but his core... What I mean is, like, his core personality doesn't change.
Yeah.
That doesn't change. It's just, like, exteriorly, like, you can kind of see a growth in him. Very small and, like, very slight that continues. That's, like, more maybe of an emotional growth or, like... just like generally getting his life together a little bit more than there was. But we don't have to see a lot of it, and I think, like, I enjoy that they were able to keep his childish character alive, and I love a childish boy, so fun. They're able to keep him alive, but then also like show him as like a real person and like have like he has, I feel like, a lot of emotional moments that are like he's a real person with like a life and a background, and like this is why he is the way he is, and like this is him like trying to be better, but like he doesn't always succeed, and sometimes I don't know, I think it's like a fun way that they do it where like I don't have to, this character, because I think also this character trope can get really annoying really fast, one, if you don't like it, but also if they never figure out a way to grow up the character but keep it alive, you know what I mean? Like if like I feel like sometimes what they'll do is they'll be like, oh, someone just takes care of them now, and it's like, no, you need them to like have the ability to be their own person, but just like in their way that works.
I think like for me, and I think I have a similar thing with Amy, is like I think like they are both the annoying characters, and I think the show just becomes this way too, and I think like once their arcs are kind of done, which I guess is like kind of when they get together, I feel like once Amy learns she needs to have fun sometimes, and once Jake learns that he needs to be responsible sometimes, that to me kind of like puts a cap on that character, at least that aspect of the character for me, and I want to see less of it. And like I'm okay if like Jake is still doing this, I'm okay if he's still like pulling pranks, and I think he still kind of like really obnoxious. Like he's always like,
but I don't think he was
belting
ever...
into the room, taking center, like, you know what I mean? He is like still that annoying character. He's still like taking charge and interrupting people and like blowing off work. Like he's doing all these things that like he's still used to do, and I just wish he learned a little bit more like maybe humility. And I think Amy too, like a little bit more like kindness. Like I wish they just like...
Well, I feel like you're asking the characters to change that. Like with the character that was introduced to you, the character that was introduced to you in the pilots, I like the fact that their core personalities, who they are as people, doesn't change. What changes is like Amy learns that she needs to take life a little less seriously sometimes.
I feel like then they just,
but I feel like she does. It's just very like it's just like very incremental. Like I think it's not a lot. Like they're very like small subtle changes that like it never actually changes who they are. It's just like you can see small aspects of it in their lives where like, oh yeah, this is a little bit different than it was, which makes sense because we're being introduced to them when they're like in their late 20s.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So like they're
like,
established they're established people already. Like
but they're children. They act like children the whole time.
Okay, but
and
it's a
Papa
sitcom,
Holt
Larissa.
is like their dad. No, that's like fine, but
what sitcom
characters
don't
character
ask
growth? If it's not character growth, like it's not character growth. If it's not character growth, if they're not growing and not changing, then they're not growing and they're not changing, and they're the same person, and it gets annoying after 8 seasons.
Okay, whatever. Agree to disagree.
It's okay.
Well, you have a let's move on.
I like that they have like an A type, B type thing. That's a trope that I do also like really like. Mm-hmm. I think that Amy and Jake, my favorite things about them is when they're together, they have such good chemistry. I think they're amazing like foils to each other, and I think when they throw in Doyle, that adds like so much fun to it.
I think I like the Charles aspect of their relationship too because it's also Boyle, I realize, not Doyle, but I like...
I was like, he was Boyle, and I was like, that's a stupid-ass name for a person. Who would be named
Charles
Boyle?
Is his actual name. Charles Boyle. But I like his aspect of their relationship, too, because he's almost like the fan, like, watching the show being like, oh, why don't you guys get together?
He's
like,
their number one fan.
He's sort of like the one who is, like, saying what I think a lot of... Not, like, in a creepier way, but, like, what a lot of fans, like, think a little bit, where it's like... Oh, how can we... He's like, we haven't seen... Like, I think in the finale, he's like, we haven't seen you guys kiss in, like, a couple of years. You never kiss in front of us anymore. And it's like, yeah, because they just, like, stopped writing it as, like, a thing or, like, whatever. And it's like, he's kind of saying what the fans are thinking, but just in a really weird, boily way, which I think is really, like, a fun insert character to have.
It's a fun invert, I feel like, of the trope of, like, the best friend being really jealous and petty of, like, the relationship.
Yeah. Or, like, it's a fun... Yeah, it's just, like, a fun... Yeah, it's just a fun audience insert that I enjoy that I don't... Like, a lot of shows obviously don't do that, so it's like...
And I think the show actually does that a lot. They do invert a lot of, like, character archetypes. Like, Captain Holt being, like, stern, strict captain, no mess around. Like, that's how he's introduced, right?
Yeah.
And he's, like, Mr. Robot. That was another trope I wrote. He's, like, the Spock of the whatever. But then they, like... But then when he comes out of his shell, you see that he's, like... He's very, like... loud and energetic and passionate and like has all these crazy hobbies.
He's very their vibe. Like he's very intense, just like all the other characters.
Yeah.
So he, even though he is a stern, no nonsense guy, he's also got the like level of intensity that they need for this show. That like each character kind of has to have about their niche thing. Like
I think it adds so much respect for him. Like it adds so much like I feel like BDE to that character too. Like when they back up these like super surface level like archetypes with like something. I love when shows do this when it's like, oh, he's the serious robot front facing person, but he's like this actually on the inside, and he's like, and it's because he's like this. And I love when you are like, to you have to connect the dots of like how these personalities mesh together.
I also like that he's kind of always the serious robot a little bit in like his mannerisms and how he is, and I like that they're never...
He owns it, and he's not like ashamed of anything. Like, he's not hiding anything. Yeah. It's like what you would usually probably think is like, oh, he's like probably super repressed and unemotional.
What I like with that is I think a lot of the time what they do is they'll do that character where they're repressed, unemotional, or just like serious, robotic. And they don't give them any depth, or they give them so much depth that, like, what they are on the outside is, like, just nowhere near what they are on, like, once you, like, break that character out of its shell, you just make them a very emotional person all of a sudden, and it's like, no, I like the way that he is what he is, but but there's just like more to him,
It's,
and
like,
someone can
unapologetic.
act this way and be this way and still have a lot of depth and it not have to be like some big dramatic
it is, like,
scene.
Amy and Jake too. They're kind of surface level and they have depth.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that convinced me.
You did the A-type, B-type. I did the partners to lovers trope, like the...
What is it? Is it coworkers to lovers? It's kind of an enemies to lovers.
Well,
it's a lot of things.
I was thinking like specifically in cop
partners.
shows.
Oh,
They do like your partner becomes like your... Like I think
Are they
it's...
partners?
Well, in this show, they're
Whatever.
just kind of
Like,
partner.
basically,
Anyone
they're just
is
the best
whoever
ones.
whoever pairs up on whatever case is their partner. Like sometimes Amy's his partner, sometimes Boyle's his partner, sometimes
Yeah.
Rose's his partner. You know what I mean? But I think it's really common in cop shows that like the partners always fall in love, and sometimes that can be really annoying. And I could totally see if people didn't like it. I like the way I really love this trope. I think it's a fun way to do it. I fall for it 90% of the time. There's like every once in a while I'm like, this is weird, they shouldn't be together. But I think if you cast the right like two
you have to know
characters,
going in that's gonna happen and that they have chemistry.
yeah, I think like they had so much chemistry and like they do a really good job. Like I said, they're basically, or I haven't said this yet. Why did I say like I said? No, I like you said, they're foils to each other, but they're basically just built to be the exact opposite of each other in a lot of ways.
It's also the opposites attract.
So there's the opposites attract thing going on,
Like
and
every
then
show,
like
so tropey.
they're very like typical. I also like it because I think this show does do a lot of like typical cop show tropes, but like kind of ridiculous, like makes them sort of ridiculous or like flips them a little bit. And so this is kind of funny because you take the traditional cop show trope of like one is a by the book cop and one's kind of a bad boy, but like they're both so silly and like weird, and like the partners who like get together eventually, and you make it really like silly and like fun to match the vibe of the show, which I really enjoyed. And I like, maybe this is a hot take, I don't know, I like that they get together and their relationship just plays out kind of behind the scenes normally, and you don't see a lot of it,
totally.
and they never break up or have some big fight. Like I didn't feel like the relationship was too drawn out. I think they got together at like the end of season 2-ish or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's about the time that I want to see you guys get together. Season 3-ish, I want to see your relationship progress. And then after that, it can take a back seat.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I can see it every once in a while, like whatever. Like I like that it feels like an almost like just like a healthy relationship that is portrayed, and you don't have to see a lot of drama, and you don't have to see, like, you can kind of just see it for the milestones and then like have the rest of it be kind of subtle. Because I've heard people complain about it before, like, oh, I hate that like Jake and Amy just like they were so on the front end of the show and then like so on the back burner for like the other seasons. I'm like, I kind of like that though,
I mean, no, I'm
because
also
I
watching
don't
a
want them.
couple after they get together.
I mean, I
like
do,
not on a show,
but
like,
but like not that much. Like
it's not juicy drama.
I don't want it
and
to be
it's not,
juicy
like,
drama. I just want to like every so often.
People
I
don't want to write them.
basically what I want is every so often, and I feel like that's what they do with this. I want a cute moment between them, and then I want to move on with the show and not have to pay attention to it. And I don't want to see them have drama because they're adults at this point. Like I don't want to see that teen drama shit that I see in other shows.
Also, when you like bring them drama, like when you have couples like get together and break up again, I feel like that's like, or like there's issues in the relationship. It just, I feel like retcons the idea that they're like soulmates or that they're like perfect together, that they're in love. Like you can't have.
Yeah, I mean, I think
obviously they can have
on,
issues, but like
it depends on why they break up. Because I think a lot of shows, I'll watch it and I'll be like, oh, you broke up and your reason was really valid and it was never addressed, and I don't understand why you didn't address the reason they broke up and then mend it.
Yeah.
Whereas like when a couple breaks up for like for a reason that's like kind of like valid enough and they address it, or like a reason that's like it's kind of dumb and trivial and like things just got out of hand and then they get back together later, I'm like, that's fine, I don't mind that. But I feel like a lot of shows will like break a couple up for the drama and then like just randomly be like, oh, they're together again now, and I'm like, but like why? Like what happened? Like why is this different?
Yeah, like in The Office when they're like, oh, Pam just like doesn't want Jim to have a dream job, so there's gonna be strife in there. It's like what?
Yeah, well,
like,
The
don't
Office.
Do that.
Yeah, Pam and Jim's relationship, fuming about that, but I actually think I hate it. But like that's fine.
It is like a good representation of a healthy relationship.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the way that Jake and Amy's relationship played out. I don't think I appreciated it at the time. I think I was like, oh, why are they not in it? But then when I rewatch it, I'm like, oh no, this is like nice, and it's just kind of cute, and it matches the vibe of the show, and they don't have to have a lot of drama, but then they have those cute moments, and we see the milestones. They get engaged, they get married, yeah, they have a baby. I think it all kind of like plays out pretty average in terms of a relationship play out, which I like also. I don't want a lot of drama, and I like that Jake and Amy are basically the only real workplace romance in the show.
Hey! Look at my notes.
I didn't look at your notes. What did it say?
My favorite couples.
What are your favorite couple? Oh, okay.
No, not yet.
Sorry.
Hot take section.
Okay. Maybe I'm forgetting some. We'll talk about it later.
They also have the found family trope.
Yeah, I put parental figure boss, which I feel like is very similar.
It's just any boss.
No, where I feel like I like what they do with the show, where they just sort of say outright, no, Jake thinks Holt is his daddy. Like, there's no, like, pretending about it.
Is.
I actually even, like, when
it's
Jake
really
basically
sweet.
Portrays that he sees Amy as his mom and Holt as his dad in, like, the workplace, I'm like, this is, like, obviously really weird, but, like, kind of...
Terry's the mom, are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, yeah. Obviously, but I like when he said that at one point, and I was like, oh, this show is just straight up, they're just going to tell us exactly what they
I
think.
kind of like that. It's kind of fun.
There are a lot of
They're
shows, because a lot of shows will have, like, an authority figure and have them be, like, a parental figure to the main character or main characters, but, like, they'll try to make it subtle and it just feels weird and they won't admit it, whereas, like, this show's right off the bat.
No, I love
Holt
that,
is Jake's dad. Like, there's just, like, there's nothing more to it. Jake wants the parental approval that he has never been able to get from his father. And, like,
I also think that, like, that's, like, a parallel where, like, when you're going for as long as the show did, it, like, when it kind of gets past that point of being subtle, I think it's, like, I love a sweet moment. Like, to me, I guess, when there's, like, the found family, but, like, the parent and, like, the child, like, found parent and child, basically, and then, like, that being, like, just accepted. Like, oh, no, like, where, like, when they accept the responsibility of being, like, that person in each other's life, I think is just so sweet.
I think it's very sweet. There's, like, a scene at some point in the show where Holt, like, basically says, like, I'm proud of you, and I think that's, like, a really sweet moment of, like, oh, yeah, like, he understands
he understands his role.
He understands what he is to Jake, and he doesn't ever really try to change it. He's like, this is who I am to this person, and I think you watch him slowly... into that, too, I think you watch him, like, slowly accept it, yeah. I think he's a little more, you know... Like, Jake obviously isn't going to outright say it most of the time. He waits a little bit to say something like that, but more or less... they say this, and I like that they say it. They address it head on. They're not pretending, and, like, there's no point in pretending. And I like that Holt, he's maybe hesitant towards it, but, like, just slowly he realizes, yes, this is the role that I perform for this person. And he kind of understands his role in each of their lives and plays it appropriately, which I appreciate also. What did you want to talk about next? I
talked about a couple characters already. Okay, we can talk about...
I don't know if this is a trope per se, but the last thing I enjoy about it is the heist episodes that I feel like are a huge part of the show.
Like a special or whatever.
Like, I like the way that they kind of take the idea of a heist movie and put it into an episode where, like, each one has to be, like, greater and, like, more impossible and more elaborate than the last one, and it's, like, so silly because it's like like all the, like, Ocean's movies, for example. I feel like they're always, like, trying to outdo each other, and it just gets to be so, like, ridiculous, and I kind of really enjoy that they play with that trope and do it exactly correctly. Like, yes, do I get annoyed at some of the episodes? Sure, but I think they do it exactly the way that heist movie series play out, so I really enjoy that they did that, and I just kind of wanted to say that as a general
No, totally. I think that's also something they do. They do spoofs, like, a few times. Like, I think they do, like, a Die Hard one.
Oh yeah, they do.
And then
they do a lot of ones. Well, I said this in, like, I don't know what to call these. I do like the way they play around with cop drama tropes and, like, kind of trivialize them and make them silly. Or just, like, various, like, movie tropes. Or, like Jake is, like, obsessed with, like, cop movies and stuff, and they're always talking about it. And I think the way that they play with those tropes and, like, portray them in the show, whether you, like, notice that it's happening or not, because, like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't recognize this one because I've never seen X, Y, and Z, but it's still entertaining to watch, like, so I think that's really fun.
That's good.
But that was my last thing on tropes. Do you have anything more on tropes, or
no,
okay, do you want to talk about characters?
Yeah, we talked about a couple already.
Yes, we talked about Jake and Amy and Captain Holt. My last thing about... Yeah, I don't know. Did I have anything I had to say? I mean, Captain Holt, I thought about this when we were talking about him earlier. His relationship with Gina was really funny to me because I feel like Gina...
They had a weird relationship.
But I feel like Gina was the only person in that office who did not give two flying fucks about, like...
That's why they got along. Like, they were just, like, both such confident, stubborn personalities.
Yeah, I think they're a lot more similar than, like, you realize.
But, like, opposite. Like, she's... communicates an opposite way of Holt, but, like, they are the same.
And I think a lot of the time what I like is that Gina's kind of like, because Gina is a lot like Holt in the stubbornness and the confidence levels that she has, she's kind of the character who can force him to do things that, like, he might not normally do. You know, like, he'll sort of...
Do they have a lot of plot lines together? I don't remember that many.
Well, she's just, like, assistant, so they just interact a lot.
Okay,
But I feel like every so often, like, I'll see them interact, and, like, it'll be, like, he'll sort of, like, trivialize something she's doing, think it's silly, and then be like, oh, no, never mind, that, like, makes a lot of sense. Or, like, Gina, you're, like, a lot, like, smarter than, like, you seem like...
Gina is a intentional bimbo. Like, he
grows to appreciate her in a way that I really respect. Like, I love... This is, like, a stupid one, but I like when...
Do you think if Captain Holt was, like, a straight white man, he would appreciate her talents? Probably not. They just wouldn't get it. They wouldn't get the girl's way.
No, I think I just really like the relationship, and I realized that when we were talking earlier. I like the way it plays out, because she is silly and goofy, but, like, she's also very similar to him.
She's like, very similar to Jake, too.
Yeah.
They're basically siblings.
Yeah, her and Jake grew up together, so, you know, they have a lot.
Yeah. That's a cute relationship, too, is her and Jake's relationship.
Well,
I always thought that was really adorable.
Do you want to hear my notes for Gina?
Because he always, like, backs up. He always, like, comes to her defense, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah. Always.
Yeah, it's so sweet.
My only note for Gina was my favorite character of the series. I want to be her. She's who I channel in my everyday life. One day I hope to be just like her. Enough said.
She's amazing. It makes sense that she leaves the show. It just makes her cooler. Yeah. It's like, you're too good for this. You're too good for any of us.
Disappears. The only time I don't really like her is, like, she's a bit of a dick in the later season after she leaves the show, but, like, whatever, I don't even care that much.
It's kind of weird when they're like, oh, she's leaving to go do XYZ, but it's like, I don't know, she is, like, Jake's, like, sister / like,
yeah, and she just kind of ditches him,
and like yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
And I think that's
like,
crazy.
They could have at least, like, mentioned that she's
they do, like, she...
Oh, do they? Okay.
She comes into the show, like, she's in, I think, basically an episode. She's in an episode or two of every season, basically, but she comes into the show, and at one point Jake is, like, kind of pissed off that she keeps blowing him off. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no, like, she's kind of being a dick. And, like, it's not, like, outside of her character. It's just kind of, like, weird. But, yeah, I like her a lot. I like, I also like Captain Holt and Kevin's relationship a lot. Like, I think it's a really sweet relationship that's,
it's
like...
a very adult relationship, too, I think. Yeah. Like, I like when they show them, they have, like, fights or whatever, and they work it out.
The only time I didn't really like their relationship was... In the last season, I got kind of annoyed that they did the plot line of, like, Kevin and Holt are, like, separated because of, like... the tensions of COVID or whatever, and I was like, okay, well...
Was it the tensions of COVID?
Tension of COVID and, like, being a black police officer and everything.
Wait, why was Kevin upset that he was a black police officer?
I think, like, it was just, like Holt said it was, like, an emotional, like, thing for him, and they grew apart and stuff like that, and they kind of, like, broke... Like, I don't remember exactly. They kind of yada-yada'd it. But it felt really weird.
And it is, like, a little far-fetched, I think, for me to believe that they would ever separate, but...
And they got back together eventually.
They're just so emotionally intelligent.
But I just found it really annoying. I was like, I don't know if I like this. I think it was basically, like, Holt kind of, like, prioritized the job and stuff like that. Like, that was a growing tension in their relationship. Okay. I just didn't enjoy it. I thought that was the only annoying thing about their thing, because for the most part, they seem to be able to communicate and, like, fight and, like, have their relationship be very... adult and, like, very, like, stable and nice, which I enjoyed. But whatever.
You know whose relationship is my favorite relationship?
Hers.
It's Doyle and Gina.
I actually really liked it too. I thought it was hilarious.
They're so cute together. They're so funny. I can't believe... I guess she had to leave the show, but, like...
No, I think it made sense for what it was, though. Like, I kind of liked what it was.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I think... And it's Boyle again.
Sorry.
I think I wrote it... he and Gina were a funny relationship to watch, and I liked it. Served what it needed to, and, like, it didn't linger. Like, it just kind of, like, it was what it was. And then you saw them grow. Like, again, Gina did a really good job at, like, you'd see her, like, be emotional and like with the characters, but then immediately follow it up with like a bit or like whatever, be like, don't take it too seriously, like I'm still me, like I'm not.
Yeah,
which
Gina,
I kind of
think,
enjoy.
to me as well, has this thing where she can get away with being annoying because it's funny.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's like your joke has to be funny if you're going to be a little annoying doing it, and then I'll accept it. But like, she's always funny, and that's why it works.
True. I think, yeah, I know, but I
Whereas,
thought,
like, sometimes when Jake does it, I'm like, okay, well, was the joke worth it? Like, it's
well, I think Gina is basically, well, Gina also is a character that, yes, she's a main character, but she's in it significantly less than all the other main characters.
True.
So she kind of gets to come in and have those quippy one-liners and be basically the best character of the show. I don't think that's anyone.
But she is a comedian, though. I think she, like,
yeah.
I don't know, do you think she wrote her own lines?
Maybe.
Yeah, probably,
but
like,
I just mean, like, she's able to do X, Y, and Z with it and then leave and, like, not have to have a huge thing about it. You know what I mean? Like,
she doesn't have to, like, transition through different, like...
Whereas,
yeah.
like, Gina's kind of just there to serve comedic timing, and occasionally she has a bit of a bigger plot line, but there's not like a ton to it the way there is, I think, with a lot of the other characters. Like, you have to see them on screen a lot, and you have to see them doing the police aspect of the job, whereas Gina's just kind of like,
yeah,
can just be there. She can be like
chill. She's a personality hire, and she knows it.
Yeah,
and so she does.
But
best.
Yeah, Boyle and Gina were like fun. I like when they become siblings. And
when did they become siblings? Oh yeah,
their parents get married. And then I like when Gina's mom leaves Boyle's dad, and Boyle finds out that Boyle is like mad at Gina for it, and then he reads the text, and it's like, I think I'm gonna leave like Boyle's dad or whatever, and Gina's like, no, why would you do that? She's like, I just don't feel like being with him anymore, lol. And then it's like, oh wow,
so iconic.
What a funny, like, what an like, I think it was something along those lines, which I thought was really funny. And then yeah, no, I really enjoyed their relationship, and I liked the way it progressed. I also like that Boyle and Rosa never got together. Like, you know how in
season... Were they going to?
No, but you know how in season 1 how like Boyle had a huge crush on her, and it was like a big plot point. I was kind of worried watching the show that would be something that they would build up to, because a lot of shows would do something like that, where they'd be like, oh, and then she sort of softens and does it, and they do the like fun like bait and switch thing where like Rose says a sweet thing to Charles where she's like, oh, I've never dated like a good guy, no one like you, and then we like open to the next scene where Charles and Gina have like fucked, and it's like, oh, okay, like
Thank
really
God.
like switched it. But I like that because I don't think Charles and Rosa would have been a good relationship, and I like their friendship becomes very like sweet and fun, and like they are what they need to be.
Yeah,
but I like that they didn't pursue that, because that would have been annoying.
What I like seeing as well, like, I feel like unrequited love is never really represented in a way where it doesn't end in them never really getting together. I like when it ends with just like, no, sometimes you like someone and they don't like you back, and it sucks, and you get over it. And you never end up with them.
I was going to say that, yeah. I like that they showed unrequited love, and they didn't have a happy ending for it, per se.
So isn't this just not unrequited love?
Like, it's not realistic that everyone you like is going to like you, and that's fine. I mean, it does suck.
Or that there was even going to be anything there. Like, it's like totally, it's like one-sided.
Like, I think they really show, and I mean, I think that's part of Charles's like character development too, is him realizing like, I can't like keep fixating on this woman, like I need to like move forward, and he has sort of weird Charles relationships, but like he finds a way to sort of,
he does a good job of attracting weird girls. He's weird.
I think he does a good job at finding people who are like right for him, which is
do girls like weird guys? Is weird like a thing that
you're a girl?
Just like, it's weird.
Do you like weird guys?
I don't really get it. I like an edge. Is that the same thing? I like interest. I mean, but like just like weird. Like, do you think some girls? I'd say
objectively, the people that I spend time with are super weird. So like, I don't know if I can necessarily say that's not.
But just like someone who just does like objectively weird things, even to you, like fucking Boyle.
Am I attracted to Boyle? No, but
if he was saying.
Like, I was attracted to, like, Jake. Like, I thought he was, like, really cute and funny. Like, I find him charming, and he's super weird.
Do you think Andy Samberg's hot?
Yes. Very much so.
Yeah. He gives me, like, Tom Holland little brother vibes.
I also think Tom Holland is hot.
Yeah, I know. You like the little brother.
You like the little boys.
You also have, like, little sister vibes, so, like, you guys are, like, the same generation.
Yeah. I'm young and cool, and you're old.
You're, like, the same pool of, like, yeah. You're into your, like...
No, I mean, I think, yeah, I like, personally, when someone is a little bit weird in like, their own way.
I'm just, like, wondering, I think it'd be funny if it's just, like, you know how, like, girls are really into, like, oh, skinny, like, malnourished-looking idiots or whatever? And, like, the hot girls are, like, that's what they're playing, hot girls. I feel like it'd be funny if the next one's like, oh, like, the weird guys are pulling hot girls. And it's like...
Well, I just think, like...
just, like, glue sniff... Like, weird people. Like, just...
Well, I don't know, because, like, what people think is weird is very, like, subjective, also.
Just, like, weird.
But, like,
why do you have no, like, standard of, like, what's weird? And
because,
what's, like,
because...
Is nothing weird to you?
No, because some things are... Yeah, I'll be like, that's really weird, I don't like this. But there are some things people do, it's like, that's really weird, but that's kind of cute that you do this.
Okay, so you'd be into the weirdos.
Like, it just kind of depends on the type of weird, and it depends on, like...
Like, an extreme level of quirkiness.
Like, again, I would
like,
have to interact
he puts,
with
like,
this
mayonnaise in his craft dinner.
I would say that's disgusting, but that probably wouldn't
Oh,
be a
weird.
red... But
Okay,
that probably
like,
wouldn't
I
be,
don't
like,
know.
a
I have
reason to not be
examples.
with someone.
He, like, never wears shoes on the street.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't want to be with that person.
Just because it's gross, though? I need to think of a non-gross
Just because it's
weird
gross.
example.
Like, if you thought of something that was just, like, kind of... Like, there are weird things that I think are cute. I don't know exactly what it is, but, like, I think there are a lot of things that people do where it's like, yeah, that's probably kind of weird that you do this.
Okay,
But,
when
like,
he has a doctor's appointment, he takes off the day before and the day of the doctor's appointment. Just
why?
No explanation.
I don't understand why.
It's weird, yeah.
It's weird. It's
But, like,
not
would you just be like, oh, he's just weird.
like, I feel like...
It's cute that I just have no idea why he does the things he does, because he's weird.
No, but, like, I don't think that's what it is to be... Like, I think people can do
No,
weird
I think
things.
there's, like, weird, there's, like, an objective weird, where it's just, like, you do something kind of banal that, like, it's not anything, like, it's not, like, there's no, like, reason behind it. It's just, like, oh, they do something weird.
Like, I don't know. It would just... I feel like...
I don't know how you can't understand what, like...
No, like, I understand what
is.
you're saying. I understand what weirdness is. What I'm saying is, I wouldn't immediately reject someone because they're weird. And I don't know... And yes, the doctor's appointment thing is really weird.
Okay, like, he ran up to you, Naruto run, page boy hat, said, hello, madame. Would you like to come on a soiree with me? Like, this is something Boyle would do.
I
like,
wouldn't
he's just weird.
be attracted to Boyle. That's... Yeah.
Okay, but, like, it's not Boyle, it's...
That person, no.
Tom Holland.
No, I wouldn't like that. I think it just depends on the type of weird. Why is that so hard for you to understand?
Okay, fine.
Like, you're giving me examples, and I'm like, no, I'm not attracted to this, but that doesn't mean that, like, everyone who's weird is a write-off.
That's what I'm asking. No,
I think it's very specific. I think it's very specific to the
it's,
person.
like, being weird, like, just hot.
No, but, like, also being weird isn't inherently not hot.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
There's just no inherent,
God.
like, sex appeal one way or the other to weirdness. If someone was, like, a weird
That's
that meshed...
really the question I'm asking.
But what I'm saying is there isn't, like, an
okay, so
inherent
that's your
sex-
answer,
yeah.
is there isn't. Okay, thanks. Let's move on. Probably did that.
That took so long.
Fucking Christ. What am I talking about? Okay, I really like Terry. He's one of my top characters.
I like
He's
Terry
funny.
fine.
I love White Chicks as well.
Is he in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's driving his
Terry-
way downtown. living.
I'm pretty sure I'd never watched... Or I watched half of White Chicks. I hated it.
It's funnier than Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Let's not talk anymore.
Anyways.
Let's end this podcast here, actually, because I don't want to talk to you anymore. No, I actually forgot to write about Terry. So he's a character I forgot.
He's such a great character.
I wrote down Hitchcock and Scully, and I forgot Terry.
They're like the Hitchcock and Scully are like the old guys in the Muppets that sit in like the opera booth.
What I wrote for Hitchcock and Scully is funny bits, irrelevant 99% of the time. I'm glad they never became more than what they are, basically in episode 1.
That's fine.
I didn't write much. I was trying to
I
write
have
all the
nothing.
characters
I
down,
have
and
no
I was like,
rebuttals.
my entire thing was like,
They're good.
they were bits, and that was fun, and I never wanted them to be more, and they
It would
never
have
were.
been funny if they like cut. I guess like they all left the precinct, but
Yeah.
if there was like a 30 years later and they're just like Hitchcock and Scully chilling around the precinct, because Hitchcock and Scully weren't they like supposed to be like
I mean,
what they are like 40 years ago?
Yeah, but who is it? I don't know if it's Hitchcock or Scully, because to be honest, they're the same person to me. One of them retires in the last season.
No, but like it'd be funny to see like the younger generation just
yeah,
like
yeah.
become.
That would be
Because that
fun.
just is what happens after you were Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
I
liked
and
their-
it would imply that like that's what they were like before, was like
I liked-
cool and hot and like really good.
Well, they did that. They did the
did they?
backstory of Hitchcock and Scully.
Yeah,
where, like,
yeah. But it'd
they
be
were
funny
like
to, like,
cool
to
and
see the other
young and
end of
hot,
it.
and then they meet the woman, and she like gives them discount on like wings or
It'd just
whatever,
be funny
and they
to see the
become
other
like
side of
fat
that.
lazy boys.
Or at least Jake.
So I really like that. But Jake retires or whatever, becomes a
Doesn't make
full-time
sense to
daddy.
me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, I liked Terry. I think Terry, like Gina and like Hitchcock and Scully, and like a lot of the characters in the show, he does what I need him to do, you know? Like, he's the character I need him to be, and I don't have a lot to say about him because I don't have criticisms or like anything about him that I love. I just think like a lot of the characters in the show, and that's why I like the show, they are exactly what I want from them. Like, there's very little for me to want them to be different. The only character who, like, I think I get sick of sometimes, who I don't always love, and this is maybe a hot take, is Rosa. I think she's a fun character to start out with, and, like, obviously it's fun to have the badass whatever character. She has some great moments. All in all, I never felt like she added that much to the show. She was just kind of like, I'm not mad she's there, but, like, I also don't really need you to be there a lot of the time. I also am not sure if I think the actress who plays Rosa is good or not. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if she's a good actress or not. I've never seen her in anything else, so, like, that also is something. But I don't know if she, like, does a good job with it. Or
it's hard to tell, I find, in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because I think that, like,
a lot of
their
them are
style
similar
of
to
acting, but, like,
characters.
They are so much, but, like, I mean, the acting is supposed to be, I think, kind of campy and kind of, like, over the, like, they do sometimes, I think, sound like they're doing, like, sketch comedy.
Yeah.
All the time.
No,
it's very, like, cartoonish.
That was also for me. It's like sometimes when Rosa gets emotional, I'm like, I can't tell if the actress who plays her is doing a bad job or if she's being told to, like, act a specific kind of way.
I don't think they brought Rosa into the show knowing they were going to get to, like, season 4 and giving her all these, like, you know what I mean?
I mean, realistically, no, anyone who starts, who's creating a show, doesn't maybe plans for, like, the first 1 to 4 seasons, and it's like, there's no way I'm getting more than that. That's, like, if I'm lucky, I'll get, like,
I don't think Rosa was ever meant
4.
to be a main character. I think she was meant to be, like, to have her own plotline.
So, I just found her meh. But, like, all the other characters I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I really liked her with one of my favorite characters, Pimento.
Yes.
I really liked them together, and I was so pissed that they so unceremoniously ended.
Okay, I also enjoyed her and Pimento together. I thought it was funny.
That's why I also found it jarring, too, when she came out. It was, like, fine. I was like, oh, you're dating women now, but, like, I also was like, oh, I thought you were, like, so in love with Pimento. And I was like, I feel like they made us root for that relationship when it was starting. Well,
she was so in love with Pimento, and that's the other thing is sometimes it felt like her coming out as bi.
She could only be, like, in love with guys. I just assumed that, like, they would end up, like, those two would end up together.
But I sometimes felt like her coming out as bi meant a little bit that, like, it almost, like, took away a little bit from, like, her relationship with Pimento or, like, whatever else, where it's, like, it seems like you want to, like, really focus on her dating women now instead of just, like, her dating whoever she's into.
Well, Pimento was a very significant relationship for her, too, I think, right? Like, that was one of her most, like, serious relationships.
Yeah, they got engaged.
Yeah. Well, like, whatever.
He was, I think, her most serious relationship.
And I thought they were such a good match for each other. They brought such, like, energy to each other's characters. Well, like, obviously, you know.
No, so...
Pimento, I forget his name, but...
No, yeah.
I love him. The actor.
Oh, yeah, he's good. He's funny. No, I liked it. I thought... But, like, I think right after she came out as bi, the show really focused on her dating women, and I was like, that's fine. I'm okay. Like, obviously, yeah. But sometimes I was like, oh, like, it's fine if, like, Pimento is, like, the person that she wants to be with, too. Like, she's bisexual. She's allowed to want to be with him.
Pimento couldn't come back on the show?
He came back a few times.
Was there a plot line where
he came back in the finale. We watched him in the finale.
but, like... He was just probably written off the show. Like, they didn't want to bring him on as, like,
cast. I didn't need him to be full-time, though, on the cast. I liked her relationship with Pimento. I would have been fine if they got back together.
Just happening off-screen. He drove through town.
And it was happening. If it was more of an off-screen relationship and he was kind of crazy. But he came on, like, guest starred for a few episodes. Like, that's fine, because it can be less of, like, a workplace relationship and more of, like, a this is my private life relationship.
He's not a detective, is he?
He is, yeah.
He's just Trump. Not anymore.
Well, I don't... He's a private, and he's a PI by the end of the show, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or a bounty hunter or something. He does a lot of crap. But at the beginning, when they meet him, he's a detective. I think their relationship is fun. I enjoyed it. I don't think Rosa had any other relationships on the show that were, like, as significant or well done.
I think you're right. I don't think she has, like, the stage presence as, like, many of the others. Yeah. And I think she needs someone, like... that brings a little bit more to it. Because
he brought all the personality to the relationship.
And, like, her and Jake, too, I think, like, Andy Samberg's bringing that personality.
Yeah, when they have a dynamic, it's fun. Like, they're bringing the personality to it. Yeah, exactly. And so she's good for that, because it's like, oh, you let the other characters shine, and you sort of...
She's like the Drax. Like in Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yeah.
she's like the Drax.
It's like, it's fun. She's fun to have, but I can take her or leave her. I think that relationship was fun to watch because you got to see her be a little bit crazy, too.
Yeah.
Like, she was like, you saw into her personal life in a way that made sense to me, because I don't think, to me, when they tried to show Rosa in conventional relationships, like, I think she had, like, Jocelyn, who she dated for a while, and then, like, Captain Holt's nephew, who she dated for a while. Whenever they showed Rosa in relationships with people who are, like, normal, I was always like, this doesn't feel right for her.
Yeah.
It feels like she needs to be with someone who is kind of, like, insane.
Kind of, like, frame her... Like, do they kind of frame Pimento as being, like, a toxic relationship for her? Isn't she kind of, like, I want nothing to do with him anymore? Like... She kind of swears him off? Or, like, she thinks that it was, like, bad for her?
No.
Okay.
They just break up. Like, I think it was kind of, like, a lot of shit was going on, and then I think they were like, oh, the wedding's cursed or something like that, and then they realized, I think they just didn't want to be, like, I think they just kind of were like, I don't want to be together. I don't remember their relationship really being, I don't remember, it was never, like, they never said, oh, this is a toxic relationship, and she seems to be on pretty good terms with him.
I would have loved it if they had, like, a kid together, and I feel like they could have, like, a mini, like, angry kid, right? Like,
yeah.
That would have been cute. Instead of whatever else they had doing.
Well, I think Rosa at the end just said, like, oh, you're such a... Like, she does a bit where she's like, I want to be with Pimento. I love him. And Amy's like, okay, then do that. And she's like, oh, you're such a sheep. You just want me to be happy with, like... You want me to, like, marry someone. She's like, no, you're just my friend. And you said this would make you happy. So I thought it would. She's like, you just believe me because you think everyone wants to
Rosa's
be married and have kids. I'm like, okay, Rosa, calm down. No, I did like her relationship with Pimento. I thought it was fun. I didn't care if she wasn't with Pimento specifically, but when they did future relationships for her in her dating life, like if they're going to make it a main plot, and sometimes they did want to present her with like main plot love interests, I wanted them to be as weird and crazy as Pimento, because that's the kind of energy that I feel like matches Rosa.
Well, I also think for Rosa, it's weird for her to really be in, like, a normal relationship at all.
No.
I think, like, she would be the person that's just has her on-again, off-again boyfriend in, like, her 40s.
Yeah.
Like, she, like, doesn't mind, like, just hitting the road with him once in a while, but, like, she's very independent. I think she's very stubborn, likes her life the way it is. Clearly has, like shits on, like, people settling down and getting married. And,
also,
like,
I felt like Rosa and
so.
Pimento had this, like, intensity about, like, keeping their private lives, like, private in a lot of ways, like hidden. Like, they both kind of valued, like, security and, like, like none of her friends know where she lives at some points, and, like, he's kind of into that also. And it's like, yeah, no, I see why this works. I see, like, different aspects of it. So I don't ever want to see her in a conventional relationship, and whenever they try to push that narrative, I'm like, why? Why would Rosa ever be in a conventional relationship? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Like, they should be fucking off, getting married in Vegas.
She should be...
Up. He would leave her for a bit, come back. Like,
she should be, like, randomly come back one weekend. Everyone's like, Rosa, why is there a wedding ring on your finger? And she's like, I don't know, I guess I got married.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, yeah, it happened, like, last month. Like, she would be totally, like, I can't see her being any other way about it.
Like, Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker vibes, I feel like.
Travis Barker, who's that?
Her boyfriend from Blink-182.
Cool.
They're just, like, super emo and edgy together.
Which one is Kourtney again?
The emo one.
Oh, okay. I actually don't really know any of the Kardashians. I only know the one who dated Scott Disick, and that's just because I think Scott Disick is really funny.
That's that one.
That was Kourtney?
Yes.
Damn.
Alright, we're good. I think it's on a Kardashians episode.
Yeah.
It's really embarrassing for her.
I know Kim, I guess,
more
too.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one.
Those are my hot takes, though. I don't know if I have any more hot takes. I feel like... Because my hot take was that Pimento and Rosa should have ended up together in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. I mean,
I don't... piece on Amy and Jake.
I don't know if I think that Pimento and Rosa should have ended up together. I think I'm fine with them not having ended up together. I'm fine with Rosa not having ended up with anybody. I just think I got frustrated with the way that they, like, continued her character. Like, they kept trying to make her, I think,
it does annoy me
a more conventional, normal
like...
character instead of, like, just embracing the fact that she's super weird and intense and, like, it's weird because they embrace the caricatures of all of the other characters, and then sometimes it feels like they have to, like, humanize Rosa more.
Were they trying to shift maybe, like, main character status from like she was gonna be maybe the main love interest, like the main, like, relationship plot, now that, like, Amy and
I don't think
Jake,
so.
I don't know, But it's weird to me when shows like this kind of do that, where they kind of run with like I feel like it happens. We just talked about like Supernatural with like Mary Winchester. Is like, why are you running like this character that was kind of a side character could remain a side? Do you feel like this doesn't apply to Supernatural, but like, do you think it's like a due diligence to like Rosa, like the character, actress who plays Rosa, that okay, now we'll give a bigger part, like now we have like more room to play around because we've completed a lot of the plot lines we wanted to complete. Let's give them to like Rosa because we
I
already
think it's
have
like
her in the cast.
an opportunities perspective. I think it's like,
or is it like, do you bring in new people and shake it up? Like, 'cause I don't think she can carry a lot of the A plots on her own.
I guess it kind of
Just in her,
depends
like,
on who
acting
you
ability.
have. Like, there are some shows where,
She's
like,
funny enough.
well, that's what I mean, though. Like, with Rosa, no, I think I'd rather see a new character. I'd rather see, honestly, more of
But
the
it's
other
like, why did
characters
they
than
just
do
'cause they
this.
had her?
But I think they thought, you know, oh, this would be, people would like I think they had ideas for her and stuff like that. I just don't think she was, I just didn't enjoy it. I think lots of people probably did. But there are lots of shows where I'm like, they finish the main plot of the main characters and the side characters get more attention and get more plot, and I'm like, oh, this is so good. This side character getting more plot is like my favorite thing in the world. Like, I'm on season 7 of whatever show, and randomly for the first time this character who's been there since season 1 is shining, and they're doing a really good job, and it's like, oh, I love when a show surprises me like that.
Yeah, when they figure out, oh, this character, like this actor can kind of take this character here, and like this, like, and they kind of build
especially
on that.
if the person playing the character is a really good actor or actress, because you kind
or,
of
like they know at least what side of their acting skills to, like, tap into.
Yeah, and so
like,
I just feel
some
like
characters don't work as
like,
well.
I feel like with Rosa specifically, I didn't like it, but I think a lot of the times I can like it. It just kind of depends on who's playing the character, what they're doing with the character, and the ideas that they have for that character. And I think a lot of the ideas they had for Rosa just weren't that interesting.
Yeah.
And like the way that the actress who plays her did it was like not to me like that good.
Maybe her best was maybe like the more dramatic moments. I'm thinking of, because I know she had like a really good episode in season 8 where she was like talking about the ACAB issues and how she felt, but that was also like season 8, so maybe she did just also like get a little bit better as the show went on. But like I don't think she's funny.
Yeah, I just didn't love her, but that's
okay.
You know, I found her funny in certain episodes. I found her, she'd be an annoying person to have in my life. Like, a lot of them, I know that they'd be annoying, but they're entertaining annoying, whereas Rosa, I would hate having her in my life, I think. Like, she's so frustrating, and she's, like, she's not nice,
how she's,
but she
like,
also, like, doesn't really ever, like, you have to, like, pull teeth to get her to open up, and, like...
It's weird to me. I don't understand why they're all friends with her.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Bella in Twilight, where it's like, oh, like, everyone just loves you, wants to be your friend, and you're just in the friend group. But it's like, what do you, like,
it's
why?
Like, what do you have to offer?
Because, like, you don't really, like, talk to anyone fully. You don't really ever get to know anyone. You kind of do, like, one, which is, like, fine. You're, like... That's
honestly,
your personality, but then you're not going to build friendships with people.
I think it's weird when they
just
push
kind of like include her as like one of the girls or whatever.
What I think is interesting is like I think it's weird when they push her friendship with Jake specifically, because I feel like Rose's closest friends are Charles and Amy, like easily, like they're the only people who like Rosa kind of like opens up to naturally a lot of the time.
I was gonna say this too. Well, I feel like she's like Jake is like the Leonardo, and I feel like she's like the Raphael. She's like the baddie, like second in
Jake
command.
wants to
like,
be the Raphael.
No, he's not the Raphael.
But
he's like more of a Mikey, really. But
Jake
he's the leader somehow. So
Jake wants to be Raphael, though. Tell me he doesn't want to be Rav.
He thinks he's Rav.
He thinks
this is what makes him not a Rav.
Yeah.
That's when you think you're Rav.
But no, yeah, I feel like a lot of the time Jake and Rose's relationship is like painful to watch because they're both kind of like emotionally not wanting to talk to each other, whereas like Amy and Charles are way more willing to like pick up the slack of that side of the relationship, so it makes their dynamic with Rosa more interesting because they're not gonna like be quite as like, I feel like Jake would be pretty chill not talking about stuff with Rosa, whereas like Amy and Charles are like way more like, no, let's hash
Jake
this out.
Jake is always like, and I don't know if it's just like the actor, but like he's always more like, he is toned down a lot. Like he doesn't have anyone kind of like hyping him up. Like I think like Andy Samberg is someone that used to be like hyped up a lot.
Yeah,
well, at least like in this show, I think he needs like that back and forth like build.
I think you're right, and Rosa doesn't offer that, and I think sometimes when they push that relationship,
that's why Drax is always with Mantis girl, yeah, because she's kooky and weird and like just bugs the shit out of him to get him to react.
Yeah,
to things.
it's kind of like anytime I see a Jake and Rosa reaction, I'm like, it's fine, or pair up, I'm like, it's fine. It's just like you're not utilizing your characters the best way that you can.
It's boring. Well, I think that's where I stopped watching was like the witness protection program plot line, which I think Rosa was involved with like a lot of that story arc was when they were undercover. And, like, the head of the department or whatever was, like, corrupt. And
when they go to jail.
Yeah, when they go to jail.
The witness protection storyline was Holt and Jake, though. When they go to Palm
Springs. But,
like,
I ended where they...
Yeah, they go to jail. Okay, I see.
That's where I stopped watching.
Well, should we talk about the finales, then? If that's where you stopped watching, was the
my
jail.
Finale. That was my finale.
So I watched all of it.
Okay.
I feel like the 8th season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine was kind of... meh. I've already said this. Like, there were good episodes, and I get what they were trying to do with this. We talked about it, but it was like whatever. I kind of hate when shows do this where they get another season, but it seems like they got another season and didn't need it, and like they got another season that was half the size of their normal seasons.
Oh, okay.
So like when they do like I'd rather I'd rather have ended it a season early and like just not like had these random concluding goodbyes and grand finales than have half a season to watch the show.
Yeah, that's fair.
I want to see all of it, and so I felt like maybe the show didn't need an 8th season, but it like I like the 8th season. If I rewatch the show and like I get to it, I'm not gonna not watch it.
Are they wearing masks the whole time in the 8th season?
No.
Okay. That would be annoying.
The show lost me a bit with like the Kevin and Holt stuff that happened, and when it was always talking about like COVID and the stress of that and the George Floyd stuff, and like I understand why they talked about it. I just, like I said before, like sometimes it was kind of like took me out of it a bit, and I was like, okay, I get why you have to do this, but also I don't know if I really want to be watching this. And then and the COVID stuff I really didn't enjoy. I didn't want to hear about COVID while I was watching the show. Whenever I'm watching a show,
during COVID, I was like, when they make shows, are they gonna address it? It sucks. Don't do it.
Whenever I'm watching a show and they address COVID, I'm almost like, I understand that this is
like
a
the
huge
most
thing,
boring world
but
event
you know
to
what?
ever happen.
I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to think about it. Stop. So that was kind of wild, and yeah. And then the finale. Okay, I forgot the finale, and then I started watching it today. It's really funny, actually. I like that they end on a 2-part heist episode. I think that's like a fun way to do it because I feel like the heists are very like epitome of the show. Like there's one in every season. I also like that they never skip a season of it. Like even when I don't like it, I like that they always have it. It's consistent. But yeah, I liked that a lot. I like that they're all saying goodbyes. It's one of the few finales also where like they're all saying goodbye to like the precinct or like something in some way or another, and it doesn't feel like I'm shocked. Like Amy is like getting promoted and leaving, and you find out early in the season, and it happens to be Amy and Captain Holt's like both of their last days, and I think Captain Holt also gets promoted
is she taking
or something.
Over from Captain Holt?
No, Sergeant Jeffords is taking over from Captain Holt.
Jeffers?
Terry.
Oh, yeah.
He's captain, and I think Amy's like moving to another precinct. Or, like, he becomes captain. The first part of the finale is, like, him doing his interview to become captain of the 9-9.
Okay.
And then, yeah, and I think that's kind of, like, fun. And then Jake decides... Basically, like, they decide in an earlier episode that, like, Jake and Amy's careers are too demanding to be full-time parents, and Jake doesn't want his kid to be raised by, like, a nanny the way he was, basically. Like, he doesn't want to have the same upbringing. He wants to be very different from his dad, so he decides he wants to be a stay-at-home dad.
That's sweet.
Which I think is sweet. It kind of feels a little out of character because I do think being a cop is like Jake's whole life, and I get that it changes when he becomes a dad. But I kind of almost feel like I think it would have been.
No, it would be really cute.
Yeah,
I feel like it could have ended with like maybe he retires from the 9, but he becomes like a private investigator.
He joins Rosa and her PI.
Oh, does he? Okay.
No. Sorry, I was just thinking that would be a good idea because she's a PI. It would be fun if he did that. Like on the
and then
side.
they could do like he's maybe like he's on a stakeout and he's like eating and he's talking, and then it zooms out and it's like his son in the backseat or something, like, and like he takes him around or whatever.
I think it's kind of weird that he retired, but I think it's a really sweet thing that he does because it kind of also shows his like personal growth of like not wanting to be what his parents were, basically. And I feel like at the start of the show he very much is like a product of his home life and like how he was raised, and now it feels like he's kind of learned and grown.
Maybe
from
if he
that.
liked to play a desk job, if he
That's
gave
what
up
I was
like
thinking,
being
but
on
I
the
think
field.
but that's what I was thinking. But I think he
feel
wouldn't
he
have been
just
able to do
belongs
that.
on the field. Yeah, that's great that he's a dad. I feel like they need to show how he's incorporating that side of him that I feel like is so integral. That die hard like hero. I want to like save the day and run into burning. Like I feel like they needed maybe a way to incorporate that.
Yeah, no. I think they probably should have incorporated that a little bit more, but whatever. Yeah, I thought it was weird, but I was actually okay with it all in all. And then I think Rosa just kind of, she kept doing her own thing, which I liked. Boyle, he had his life. Like, Boyle had no more plot line development to do. So in the finale, I felt like a lot of them, they were where they needed to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which is like fine.
I
didn't really care at that point. Yeah. I like what they do though. I like this in a season finale where they do, or the series finale. I like when they make it really cheesy and it's like we're gonna walk through memory lane and like talk about like all like the fun.
That's what I was gonna say. I like when
have the cameos of all the characters that left.
I like when they do the callbacks to like everything and like
that's important. Especially for a show like this.
They really like hammer in like the things that people like the fact that they ended on a heist. I really like because it's such a big part of the show and like it is very much like for the fans.
Yeah.
I don't like when they do like finales that are like not for the fans because like then what are you doing? Like why? Like they're the ones who
like it's fine, but then it has to be really impactful. When
like this has to be
99 season 8. Can you?
Yeah, but anyways, I like the finale. I didn't love the final season. In general, the final season I can kind of take it or leave it. Like I could have lived with it having been cut, and I could have. And I'm happy also to watch it when it comes on. But I don't like these half season shit. Like, if you're gonna do a final season, do a full season, baby.
Yeah.
But I get it. I feel like they basically
like
were like
miniseries, a little goodbye thing.
Sometimes
basically.
I almost don't like when I go into a final season of a show and they know it's gonna be the final season, so they do a lot of shit that they like wanted to get done, or like a lot of shit to like set up it being a final, just like, or in general, just like stuff to make it to be like, oh, it's a final season, like we're setting up this character who we want to be in this place in their life and blah blah blah, and it's like
I see. Yeah, like, you know what I know what you mean. Like they have an end point, and then they have to like just like totally like shift directions and like take the character there.
Yeah, or maybe they're not even shifting directions; they're just doing it and like pulling the trigger on it in a way where I'm like, I get it, it's a finale, but I don't want to feel the whole season like I'm saying like, goodbye to the show. You know what I mean?
Like all of a sudden, Jake's job is too full time.
Yeah.
Like, is it?
But I mean, to be fair,
a lot of
in the season 7 finale, is when they have the baby. So like they're figuring it out as parents in season 8.
Oh, okay.
So that, to be fair, is fine. But yeah, I just found it all a little like, okay. Like I don't want to feel like I'm saying goodbye to the show the whole season.
I see.
I want to feel like most of the season is pretty average season. Maybe you set up a couple of things here and there, and then I can feel like I'm saying goodbye to the show at the very end of the season, but that's fine.
I also kind of like in workplace, at least like in workplace, like I kind of like when, I don't know, I guess Parks and Rec did it and I was fine with it. I like when they're all just, if it ends and they're all just still working there.
Well, yeah.
You saw a snippet of these people's careers.
The other thing is, like, I could have assumed that, like, Holt was eventually going to move on and Amy was going to eventually like, get a promotion.
It's like wildly, I kind of groundbreaking.
Like, I wasn't surprised by it then, and, like, I liked that we got to see where they all ended up.
Yeah.
But I also would have been fine if you just cut to, like, 5 years later and they're all in different places.
No, they're all, like, Scully and Hitchcock, and they're all, like, fat and, like, don't know what's going on.
Like, I think I kind of knew exactly where all their career trajectories were going.
Yeah, that's why I don't like it. I don't like when they show me where characters go. I was like, yeah, like I figured. I don't like, or like I don't care. Like I know.
Yeah.
I wasn't like rooting for them to do great things.
The only surprising character to me, like character finale to me, was Jake's. So like, From that
Yeah, but,
perspective,
like,
sure, but like,
because it doesn't make sense for his character.
but like, I could have assumed a lot of
guess it does.
stuff. I guess the season 7
Feels
finale was
lazy.
also good because it was like, if the story is like a love story between like Jake and Amy and like his life and stuff, and him not sure if he wants to be a parent because of X, Y, and Z. In the season 7 finale, he like has a baby, and like I feel like that's also a nice ending to a show when like the main couple or whatever
Yeah,
starts their
that's
family.
true,
Then you
that's
kind of like
true.
end the show that's about their found family and start the show that's about like their biological family again. Not like started, like you obviously I wasn't suggesting a reboot or something. I just mean like that's when like the show ends because it's like, oh, now their priorities are shifting from this found work family into something else.
Yeah.
Because that's just what happens when you have a kid. Not that I know personally.
Well, they get to be close friends with Boyle and his child named
Nicolaj.
Yeah. Okay.
Nicolaj.
That'll be so fun.
Boyle and Nicolaj was Boyle's whole everything Boyle does. I actually am very entertained by.
Where does Boyle end up in the season finale? Or the series finale?
I don't know. A detective.
All right. Okay.
I don't think Boyle has much.
That's fine. Makes sense if Boyle wanted to be a stay-at-home dad.
That would make a lot of sense. I think Boyle is a lot better at prioritizing, like I think part of it is Boyle is very good at, like, Boyle kind of becomes the new Jake, I think, like, in a lot of it, where he's,
Isn't
like,
it cute they all open,
where
like,
he kind of, like, I feel like takes more, like, leading roles in, like,
that's cute for him, I feel
the
like.
workplace,
Because
but
Jake's,
also,
like, his hero.
Boyle is a lot better than Jake at, like, finding a work-life balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think Jake gets, like, really into it and is, like, really into the bits and, like, doing whatever he has to do and, like, gets really invested in his work, which is totally fine, but he doesn't do as good a job at, like, finding the balance between work and his family. Whereas, like, Boyle seems to, like, always know... Well, whatever. Boyle seems to always know when to, like, prioritize his Nicolaj and his wife, whose name I don't know, because he's married, like, 3 times, I feel like, in the show.
I was just like, oh, okay, this is going to be Boyle's life now.
Yeah. And then he sort of goes between that and he knows how to prioritize that and when to prioritize that over work and when to prioritize work over that. Which I think is, like, Boyle is weirdly one of the most responsible characters in the show.
Yeah.
You don't even realize it.
No, he is.
Like, I think a lot
He's
of
the
the, like,
grandmother.
a lot of the later seasons are also showing Boyle basically shining as a detective and, like, explaining why he's really good at his job. It's just that he's such a hype man to Jake that it kind of, you don't see it.
Okay.
Which I think is kind of fun, because it's like, okay, yeah, like, show why Boyle... Why was he such a good detective in the first place? Like,
why does he work here?
What is he? Why is he good at his job? Show that he is competent. Like, I think that's
They're all personality. All your staff is personality hires.
Well, I think it's fun to show that Boyle is a competent, like, cop on his own without Jake. You know, like, he's more than just Jake's hype man.
Yeah.
But, like,
they needed some separation.
He's also really happy to be Jake's hype man, but it's fun to show him be something else. So yeah, I don't know exactly his finale though, because I don't think he needed as much of a finale as the others.
Fair enough.
Cool. But yeah, should we do our hot takes? I mean, you basically have done yours.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I mentioned them. I guess, like, I wish that, I think for me, the part of Amy and Jake's dynamic that I liked the most was when they were doing, like, a lot of, like, the enemies portion of the enemies to lover.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that even though they get together and love each other and are in a very healthy relationship, I wish they still had a little bit of that dynamic.
I feel like they do that dynamic all the time, though.
I feel like they get along too well and everything.
Like, I think they get along very well, but I feel like they continue to do a lot of the, like, at one point during one of the heist episodes, Amy explains that she hired an actress to be a fake therapist for Jake so that she could learn all of his secrets and plans for the heist.
No,
and, like,
but, like...
Like, she does some pretty, like, crazy stuff. And,
No,
like,
but that's not what I mean.
they continue to do a lot of their, like... They continue to do a lot of their, like, wild adventure things that they did before.
I don't care about that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like, one-on-one where they're talking to each other. I wish they would get into, like... They would be like, oh, honey, that was fun that we played that game. I feel like I wish that there was a little bit more
bickering?
Of, like, yeah.
Fair
I think
enough.
they would be a bickering couple.
I think they would be... I think... Yeah, I think
I just think that that's, like, what...
I guess to me it's like they don't show a lot of their relationship, so I kind of assume that any of the bickering that they would have been in their relationship kind of smooths out over the course of like behind.
I feel like that was like their foreplay. That was like their
Yeah.
So I feel like they would just like
Fair enough.
both enjoy. Like I feel like they both enjoyed
You know what?
riling each other
Valid
out.
complaints.
Okay, thanks.
Valid complaints. Sure.
Okay, that was my hot take.
But you don't like them all in all, or you do like them. You don't like them. You just want to see enemies. Always.
I just think they're a little bit boring.
That's why I like
A little bit
them.
predictable. No, that's totally fine. I get it. I get it. I think they're fine.
I need something stable and boring, you know? I'm not
I think
okay.
they're good. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I
think
there are no Boyle and Gina.
Yeah, my hot takes were I don't like Rosa that much, but I said that already. My other I don't know if this is hot take. This show needed to be really jumping back in. This show needs to be more procedural cop show and less real TV show with plot lines.
Yes.
I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. I just think it had too many of like it really like tried to get into overarching plot lines later, especially in the series, whereas like I would have liked them to more or less stick to procedural cop shows with like every so often like a character like the Pontiac Bandit can come back and you kind of build off of what they did last time and that's fun.
Yeah.
But like they're again a one-off character and they're gonna go back.
Well, I think like this, I feel like shows do this a lot, and in like shows like I feel like this and like Smallville, same thing, and like I think Vampire Diaries too. It's like when they have like something that's a little bit more procedural, where it's like X of the week, it's like X isn't like blank, not like your X of the week. This isn't.
Maybe it is your X of the week. Maybe that's the show plot line. You don't know. Maybe
This
it's
isn't Pretty Little Lies. Okay. I think that wait, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, when you're doing like and you have the procedural, I think like if there comes to a point in your show where there is a lull in like character arcs and there is like a lull in like the drama you could do, like if you're feeling like lazier and those aspects, that's when I think you need to lean on like your procedural shit and like you need to be like turning out more like structured episodes and let like the drama take a backseat and tell something can like come up again like organically almost, or like
I think
there's like more of a plan and not just like don't just put drama into it for the sake of putting drama into it.
I think a lot of long running shows like this one and like the Vampire Diaries and like Smallville, they run into the same problem of like how are we gonna escalate the conflict each season to make it like more interesting, to make it feel fresh, to not make it feel stale and boring. But it gets to a point. It
stale and boring though.
But it gets to a point. Well, not even like that, but it gets to a point where, like, you've escalated the stakes so high at this point that, like, I don't know if it's almost like I've come back down on the, like, parabola of, like, caring. Like, there's a peak point where I'm like, yes, this is just enough, like, stakes for me to be really interested in it and really care. And then, like, they keep trying to up it, and I go back down again. And I'm like, oh, I don't really care anymore. Like, this is kind of silly that this is something that you're dealing with. Or, like, this is just something where it's like, I don't want to know. And so I do think a lot of long-running shows suffer from that. If like, how do we make
maybe
it?
They have like interesting conflicts, but it's like they rush because I feel like they have to get some mini character arc out like every episode almost, and it's like you don't need that. Like you can like set things up and like you can have it end where like these people are in a riff, and then pick up like a couple episodes later where they like you know what I mean? Like you don't have to like rush through those things.
Yeah, well,
those like big important beats that you think are.
I think that's just
because I think it's also fun like watching shows being released and being like, oh, I hope like I get like a Jake and Amy moment this episode. I mean, you get like a little one, and then it's like, okay, next episode I hope I see like more of it.
Well, that's what sometimes I'll watch shows and I'll be like, I'll watch one week where I'll be like, oh, I'm so disappointed. Like my favorite like characters like didn't really get a lot of screen time together.
Yeah,
but like I'm like still waiting every week to like watch it, and I don't need.
It's like a tease. It's like we don't even.
I don't need every episode to be like it's all about them, but every episode I want to get a little tease. Like I want to like work.
Yeah.
And I mean, it also helps if you want to do a slow burn relationship to not have the characters that you want to be together
like actually
be in every scene together. Like, But I just felt like they needed to do a lot more procedural stuff and a lot less of the overarching plot lines.
Yeah.
And then we talked about this earlier. I didn't mind that Charles and Gina didn't stay together, but I really could have gotten behind that as an actual relationship in a weird, twisted sort of way. I don't really understand why I like it, but
I know, they're just so good.
I kind of did like it.
And I feel like I kind of got it. I kind of got why they would both be into each other.
Yeah.
In like a weird way. And it felt like they were both stepping outside their comfort zone.
It
Like,
felt like
neither of them thought this was a good idea. Or, like, neither of them, like, thought that they would be...
But, yeah, both of them know that that's
into
kind of
each
a
other.
weird thing for them
Yeah.
to do. And I think it was kind of fun. It was a really fun opportunity to explore that dynamic, and I think the characters, like, and maybe even the writers, were probably surprised at how well that dynamic actually worked.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think it was just, like, a random thing to do
Yeah.
to be funny and, like, whatever. And I'm fine with it being that, like, genuinely I am. But I also totally could have gotten behind if they decided to make that, like, a legitimate, like,
Yeah.
B-plot relationship of, like, to the main relationship or whatever, and, like, they wanted that to be, like, a thing. I think I could have gotten behind it because it did weirdly kind of work.
It would have been a fun, I think, also, like, parallel to, like, it would have been fun, like, doing that relationship aside, like, Jake and Amy's relationship, because it was just been, like, very different.
I think their relationship also could have, like, it already did create a lot of bits, and I think it could have continued to create a lot of, like, funny bits throughout the show, and a little bit of drama, even.
I think it's also fun when there's multiple relationships, maybe plot lines in a show, where, like, people, like Parks and Rec do that, and, like...
No, I like...
The Office does that, and I think it's fun to, like, bounce around, because I think also, like, the relationships can, like, propel each other. Like, if one couple's going through, like, a milestone, it can, like, spark something for this other couple that maybe haven't, like, thought about, like, if they're a little bit earlier.
I also think it's fun to do because where one couple might be getting a little bit stale or boring and you kind of just want to leave them for a bit, you can do something with the other couple or, like, couples in the show. And so, like, it's fun from a relationship perspective to have multiple so that you don't have to worry about constantly adding conflict or milestones into one specific relationship. You can kind of put it in another relationship and, like, follow that relationship for a while and then come back to the initial relationship you were working on, because I also think it's kind of wild when, like, you're watching a show and a couple is, like, together and then, like a week later when the episode comes out, some, like, they're saying I love you or something, and I'm like, oh, well, like, why don't you just give me a few episodes of, like, not really seeing them, focus on someone else.
Well, especially when it's, like, that's not what the show is. Like, the show is a cop.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
like, you know
this
what I
is
mean?
a cop
That's, like, that's
comedy.
what I'm coming for.
I'm talking more generally speaking, but, like...
No, I'm agreeing with you.
But yeah, but I do think it's, like, I think it's, like, fun to have sprinkles of, like, little relationships, but... I mean, I was fine with it. I just think it would have been really funny, and, like, it was kind of a weird and twisted relationship, like, that I was kind of into.
They could have, like, almost, like, taking things more to the extreme, I think, and just been a little bit wackier.
Well, I also think
taken,
they
would have
had a more fun.
Seriously.
I think they could have had a fun bickering relationship also, where, like, because I think Gina.
I think they would have been a power couple. I think they would have, like, it would take, like, an arc to get there, but I think they would be like, oh, we're the best, and they would have, like, thrived off each other.
I think Gina's also the type of person... Well, also, Gina is a lot like Jake, who is basically Charles's, like, favorite person in the world. So it makes sense that
he would become brothers
with
with Jake.
Basically.
In-law, which is cute.
But, no, I also think Gina's the type of person who, like, accepts nothing less than, like, your best. Like, from... Especially, like, your partners.
Yeah.
So she would really push Charles into... whatever emotional growth.
Or she would teach him to be
do.
confident, I think. Like, she would be, like, kind of his backbone and his confidence. And I think she would defend him because I think she would be very, like, protective of her, like, boyfriend or whoever it is. Or, like, very defensive. Or, like, you know, I think they would have that very, like...
Yeah, I think she would be...
like an old rich couple kind of, like, stature.
It would be fun
and,
because
like, just don't fuck with us.
I also kind of like the character who's, like, maybe she's kind of a bitch to Charles, but if anyone else does it, it's, like, not okay. It's, like, a fun little, like... Hey, look, sometimes I'm mean to you, but, like
it's like
a
Charles
little bit
is
of
like,
I still love you, obviously. Like, I don't hate, like, I'm not.
Well, she's like the princess, and Charles is always like has to be like doting on her all the time. But he would love that shit. Cause that's what he loves to do.
He loves taking
and she
care
loved
of
that shit because
people.
that's what she thrives off of. And in return, I think she would
just
improve his life generally.
Yeah,
as women do.
It would just be a fun relationship, but that's fine.
I think that's everything I have.
That's everything I have too, and just in time.
Woo, woo, woo! Do you hear that? That's the sound of the police coming to arrest you if you don't subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. So we love hearing from you. Make sure to leave lots of likes and comments, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.